What's a low-effort job with a surprisingly high salary? Formal Mango said, I once took a job as tape operator for a production company who was making a docu-series. I got paid $35 an hour to sit in a room overnight for 4 months with boxes of tapes, mark in out points, and transfer digital copies to server. It's still the easiest job I've ever had. Senecan said, I worked as a massage model at a massage school. My job was to lay there and be massaged for a few hours while the students did their lessons or took their exams. It was £30 an hour, which isn't loads, but better than the £10 an hour office job I had before. Overall Safety 791 said, over the course of my many careers, I can confidently say that there's an inverse relationship between how taxing my work has been and how much I've gotten paid. The most gut-wrenching, physical and emotionally intensive labor was lowest paying. The highest paying was chilling out on some meetings and making comments every now and then on spreadsheets. One Othman said, better yet, pretending to own a parking lot. Not sure where this happened. I think it was the UK somewhere, but essentially some guy started charging people to park in a car park. He went every day for 30 or 40 years and no one ever caught on to the fact that he didn't own the parking lot until one day he just didn't turn up to work. Upwards 2013 said, I worked at a gov agency in DC where this one legend of a guy had survived the agency changing names and administrations over the years. Over time, he got lost in the paperwork and would clock in every morning and then go out and drive a taxi all day. He'd be back at the end of his shift to clock out. He was an analyst of some sort who no longer fell under anyone. Of course, this was the same agency who would lay down a dance floor in the library and hire a band every Christmas. Certain depths hosted each day in the, I think, 4 days leading up to the holiday break. TLR 321 said, oh man. My aunt and uncle own a fairly large field right outside of a small town. They do all of their harvesting by the end of August. Come the second week of September, a huge harvest festival is held. The town sees like 500,000 visitors in a weekend. They clean the fuck up every year for it by charging $12 a day to park. They even let people camp there and charge $45 a night for camping. It's crazy. They don't even do anything. They have a bunch of kids volunteer to park cars as a part of school community service. They donate maybe a quarter of the earnings and pocket the rest for operational costs. The possessor said, I worked at a college. Our IT guy slept during the day. He had a night job. He was a backup IT guy for the other college in town and did their IT work at night. We kept him and outsourced his job to the IT guy at the other college. Each IT guy had 2 jobs, their day job and their night job as the IT guy at the other college. New York State. One of us was a SUNY, the other was private. I'm sure they each made $150 a year minimum. In case you're interested, our IT guy worked on a program schools use called Banner. He was actually an expert at it. He was such an expert that SUNY Central Administration in Albany, not SUNY Albany, would contact our guy if they had a problem their IT department couldn't fix. He honestly was good. But he was underused. We didn't need that level of expertise, and he was completely unsupervised. BTW, I'll confirm only what school it wasn't. I'm still working in that general field. Realtor said, not in IT. This screwed me once. I was the third in command of a huge department where I and the other people all did a great job and knew a lot about each other's work. I did more than my fair share of work because the 2 people above me were very hands-off. I was promoted to department head for a very small department, like 1/10 the size. The staff there knew nothing. Their old department head did everything on her own. They literally didn't know how to do basic things like make a PDF. Turns out their boss had done the financial matters and that was essentially it, and the staff basically read the paper. I was screwed. They were all too incompetent to teach how to do anything, and there were too many important things that had to be done in time to make the department grow. I grew the department and made a bunch of changes and left. I left exactly a year in. Edit. The reason I was given the department was because it had problems. But corporate didn't tell me that until I was like, I'm going to quit. Fresh out of Awesome said, honestly, almost any IT position at a school is cake. Almost half of our IT department doesn't even have a degree, and the ones that do have it, it's in cybersecurity. They dick around with a few Chromebooks or iPads and watch YouTube most of the day. I envy them. I bust my ass for $17 an hour cleaning the school, and most of them are making $23 changing out the occasional ink cartridge and hiding in their office looking busy, lol. Fucking cool guys though. We shoot the shit for like an hour a day just talking about anime, which we did to our project cars over the weekend. A few of them helped me get into crypto. I'm hoping to see some decent returns, maybe help pay for some night classes so I don't have to clean toilets anymore. TipSave said, school custodians are not paid adequately and often neglected, ignored, or looked down on. Not in my classroom. I introduce fresh students to our custodian every year and make sure to emphasize how critical of a role they play in our art studio. Yay, custodians clean stuff, but they also maintain a lot of our kills, keep our classroom safe when we spill something hazardous, and are always the first call when staff need help moving things around. There is so many things they do that aren't part of their job, and they know the school better than anyone else. Hail to the custodians. Also, check if your school has programs for employees. Oftentimes you can get the tuition deferral discount if you work at the school. Fresh Out of Awesome said, on behalf of all custodians, thank you. It's a hard, thankless job. We are overworked, underpaid, and ignored a lot. The amount of stress, mental and physical fatigue is a lot to deal with. I never expected to feel the way I do when I first started. It's not fun just being seen as just the help and not a fellow employee. It's not fun to voice your opinions and concerns only for them to fail on deaf ears. Nobody wants the short shit covered end of the stick, but we take it daily and are just happy we have a job still. Hey Fiddle said, I would change paperwork to bureaucracy to cover things like pointless meetings, but yes, this is very true for software engineering. Meetings could fall under boredom too. A good portion of the job is thinking about what needs to get done. One nice thing about goofing off on Reddit or shooting the breeze with coworkers is it allows your brain to do the thinking in the background. A lot of times, you need a distraction for your brain to give you a eureka moment. Staring at and thinking about the same thing in the forefront gets counterproductive at a certain point. My team calls it fresh set of eye syndrome. You spent so long toiling over some specific thing that all you really needed to do was go do something else for a couple hours to let your brain marinate on it and look at things from a fresh perspective. There's also the rubber duck method. Sometimes you need to explain what you're toiling over, and the solution comes to you just from explaining things out loud. You could say it to a rubber duck and it'd have the same effect as talking to someone else, because you really just need to break down your thought process and say it out lound. Fort Twalton Bleach said, Spartan speaks truth, life-changing truth. If you are coming in out of the blue, learn to organize your data. This is paramount. It will make formulas in your life better. I would say 80% can't get this right. Your formatting and organization of data speaks directly on how you see things. This is important because you are going to have to learn formulas. Play with the if stuff first. I'm certain about ifs, then master text formulas like trim, len, left, right, get creative. Then index match. That is very powerful combined with the above. And then get jiggy with pivot tables. Get creative. You can start combining this stuff with all of the above. It all builds on itself. Worried. pffftwww.exceljet.net along with the Microsoft site is all you will ever need. For macros, learn how to activate formulas, or use the formulas in the macros. Then the next leap is to harvest data from other applications. Now you got yourself a beat. I found www.wallstreetmojo.com to be the most helpful. Also, the best way to learn formulas is to copy templates, and tweak, mess them up, take them apart, and before you know it, you have something original. Be prepared for problems. Every obstacle will actually make you more powerful, and this isn't one of those self-help guru things. Troubleshooting must be expected and it will take tenacity. Well, that's my Excel primer overview. All this can be picked up in about 3 to 6 months, and if you got questions, heck, I respect a person who has an Excel question instead of saying I can't do that. Like my other coworkers, I'll write you out just to spite them. FML Out of Scotch said, having done both, I agree with you, but with one exception, you don't tend to bring home work with manual labor jobs. My non-manual labor job is easier, physically, but the mental stress is significantly more tiring than the physical labor ever was. Software engineering example, working on a solution to a problem, quitting time comes around for the day and I go home, but the problem is still consuming most of my mental energy. Even after a decade, I still can't figure out how to turn that off. I found it much easier to delineate between work life when I had manual labor jobs because when I left the job site, I was done working. Edit, typos. Auxiliary said. This is something that scares me. I haven't worked long in software dev, but during my internship I felt like I had no time, even though I spent a lot of time at work doing effectively nothing other than stressing and procrastinating. Then I'd come home, an environment where I can think much more clearly, and I'd accidentally spend my whole evening just thinking about work. Then the next day, I'd be productive in the morning while implementing the ideas from last night, but then I inevitably get stuck again and spend the whole afternoon doing nothing. I just want to go home. I'm so bored. Please end this hell. And then the pattern repeats. It feels like work ends up occupying 100% of my supposedly free time, and I can't stop it. I wonder if this is the wrong industry for me. I genuinely preferred working in retail, because at least my mind was clear when I wasn't at work. Dinosaurus said. I'm in government. My small department of 8 people has 1 full-time admin and 1 part-time admin. Our full-timer is the soul of our team and is ready to help us ASAP. She is amazing. There isn't much work for her to do, so she finds ways to fill her time. Versus the part-timer is useless. Lucky to get a response to an email within a week, but if I walk across the hall from my office to hers to ask her to do a task that is under her job description, she writes it down on a notepad and then says it's on my to-do list, but IT is part of your job and should have been done already for ME because your job has specifically timed duties and now a human cannot receive a specific type of medical care till you do IT, but they are here right now for their scheduled appointment. Dirac said. I have some relatives that work for the federal government that often talk about jobs where they work in areas like accounting and project management that make over $100,000 and might on a busy day have as much as 2 hours of actual work. My aunt was talking about this one older woman near retirement that made over $120,000 a year and her only job was running some transactions every morning, which usually took no more than 20 minutes, then she would spend the rest of the day knitting at her desk. W33 Cup said. You have to do some work to get to this point. This is for IT-focused roles. 1. Get your PMP. It's not an easy or cheap test. 2. Get your Scrum Master and Scrum Product Owner certs. 4 days training $2,500 US. For added bonus, get your DevOps Foundation Leader cert for about $600. They are both open book and pretty easy. More bonus, get your ITIL V4 cert. Pain in the ass, not at all worth the effort, but good resume fodder. If you are not experienced, then do these things in reverse order. Then it's based on your PM experience. If none, start applying for bus analyst or project coordinator positions, preferable in corporate orgs. Spend a 2-4 years there and then go for the PM roles at Gov.IT. Then you should be good. It will depend on the shop you end up in. Mine was annoying, poor leadership, but super easy because no one was ever held accountable for anything. Poor leadership. The corporate experience is good so that you can tell everyone in Gov how messed up they are and how things are done in the real world. Gov is insane compared to corporate. Spetsy55 said. My next door neighbor works in a power station. His job is to sit in front of a monitor and make sure everything is working well. If something goes wrong, he calls the appropriate workstation and they fix the problem. Because an alarm sounds if something is out of sync, which rarely happens, he is able to play games or read a book 99% of the time. He is on $150 per hour to basically play games and chill at work. Wayne Crane said. The owner of a law firm I worked for would hire pretty redheads to be his assistants. They would sit outside his office and gossip. They had no real work to do outside of making adjustments to his schedule, and he definitely didn't need 3. If he didn't come in, they would leave within an hour of showing up, and he rarely came in, maybe 50% of the time. Love to Lurk said. I had a job like this. I got paid $28 an hour working as an administrative assistant in a high school. It takes like 15 minutes to input grades and send truancy letters. Answering phone calls always resorts to just transferring them to the principal or school nurse. Literally nothing to do. I left the job because there's no work in the summer, school is closed, and honestly, the environment was toxic. When you have that much free time at work, people want to start talking about their personal lives, and I don't like to talk about mine to my toxic co-workers. So I left. This job was the definition of money doesn't buy happiness. The True Golden Boy said. Call center management. Not even something high up like operations or quality assurance. Even being middle management can be lucrative. I've worked a few call center jobs. The people on the bottom absolutely get fucked over, overworked, stressed out, but once you get to management it's fucking easy. Last call center job I worked, I got promoted to management just to how long I had been there. After the promotion, I was paid $50K per year to sit at home, listen to people do their job, fill out paperwork and have the occasional web meeting. I spent more time playing video games and working out than anything else while on the clock. Funniest part to me is that when I gave my notice, they tried to offer me a promotion to stay because I was such a hard worker. I was super tempted to laugh and tell them how little work I actually did in a day. The last Farton said. Currently working from home in a call center. Same story, almost 2 years of experience across different departments, and now I only handle special cases. Currently in the runnings for a proper leadership position. I'm a combination of excited and terrified because my current position allows for hours on end of being paid to do almost nothing, and I'm afraid I'll get in over my head with real work when I'm helping to manage a whole team. That said, still excited though. Kunkiskins said. Staffing and recruiting, but specifically on the business development or sales side of things. I don't even make sales calls much anymore. It's just repeat clients. They call me up and say, hey, we need a quality manager ASAP. I say cool. What does it pay and what are the top 3 things you need to see on a resume? I get it and then give it to recruiters who spend a week or 2 finding the right person and walking them through the hiring process. I spend 15 minutes on the phone and a month later I get a fat commission check. Edit. It's easy now, building a book of business and learning enough about every type of position that exists at every industry to the point where you know what you are talking about and people will trust you is hard. Manabuyerpancy said. My current job. Project manager for US-based Fortune 200 company, permanent work from home, make 6 figures, and I do maybe 4 hours of actual work each week. I have my home office set up where I have 2 gaming monitors connected to my gaming laptop sitting on my desk directly in front of me. Then I have my work laptop sitting to one side that's got the volume turned up so I hear if I get an email or message. When I do, I handle that, then go back to my personal laptop. Most days I'm either playing video games, watching movies, browsing Reddit, studying for new certifications, or doing stuff around the house like laundry, dishes, cleaning rooms, food prep, etc. People on my team constantly say things like, man, this workload is insane. I've got the same and even more than some. It's so boring. But, they're paying me to dick around most days. Saiwar TV said. Started out as a sub in electrical just to get into the PM world. Currently in more of a consulting role, which I believe that experience will help round me out. The construction industry inherently pays less for PMs while you do a lot more, especially as a subcontractor. I operate a minimal team and do most of the work myself. It's exhausting. I am hoping to make my way towards its software development, maybe even medical, or somehow get back into the realm of education, perhaps in e-learning in some capacity. My background and schooling is education. Manabuyerpancy said. For me, I started entry-level help desk in IT. Learned enough to make it to that point and got hired on and trained. After that, sort of took initiative to make things more efficient. Spreadsheets, tracking, building inventory databases, reporting metrics and easy breakdowns. I would say if you're looking to get into it, find a niche and area you excel at. Look for entry-level positions like a project coordinator. Then, after that, work with your boss to have credit for roles involving coordination or management, so that way you've got project experience under your belt. Go for your CAPM certification, which is sort of the entry junior project manager cert. It's a lot of information. But those certs are easier to study for, prep for, and take than getting a college degree. I paid maybe $1,500 total for the certs that I have, most of which I was reimbursed for through my contracting agencies. Also, talk to a recruiter. They are all over the place. There are big ones. Search for recruiting agencies on things like LinkedIn or Indeed. Most agencies will help you find things or steer you in the right direction. Mac said. Basically I operate like a humongous distillery. But instead of alcohol it's natural gas. The gas comes in and it goes into towers. It separates the gases, ethane, propane, butanes, etc., at different temps and pressures. Then they go into separate tanks and get sent down the pipeline or rail or trucked out. Basically everything is automated. We are there just kind of babysitting it unless something goes wrong. It is a lot to learn at first, but once you learn the process it's super easy. I also run the board, like 16 screens that you have to watch temps and pressures and such, but again, it's all automated. So unless an alarm goes off I'm just usually watching my phone or movies. The worst part is it is swing shift. And there is danger because you are around millions of gallons of natural gas getting processed every day. But honestly I don't think I could find an easier job and make this much money and only have a HS degree. I'll send a link of a job on Indeed. That is what I do. Different company, same type of work. They make it sound pretty crazy in the description, but it's not that bad. https://www.indeed.com/cmp/jobs?JKEquals6E88A119C38F1397% start equals 0. Snatiation said, I'm an admin at a state university. I'm new and do not affiliated as the country's civil worker. I don't know the proper English term, so my salary is under minimum wage. However, other co-workers who are civil workers got paid 4, 5 times bigger than me, plus tons of additional aid salary. Oh, may I add, we have the same job desks. The job desks? Honestly it's depend on the semester. On the beginning, middle, and end of semester, it's real busy. Other than that, very slow days, checking students' attendance, finishing report, or answering students' administrative questions. Heck, I saw my coworker who shared the same office room with me came to work at 8:39 and left at 1 p.m. Often she spent the days on the office pantry, cooking and gossiping. I understand why civil workers got bad reputation in my country. Slacking off workers yet humongous salary. Sometimes I hate coming to this university for work because the salary is very unfair. We have the same job desks, yet vastly different in salary erg. But, I'm still young. Job is hard to find in this economy. At the very least, with the extra time I have, I'm able to spare time for graduate school, and in this university job I'm able to build relations with professors and experts in academia. Sorry for the long rant. Greedo said, international pilot. I make $200K a year as a wide-body first officer. None of the decisions fall to me. I fly one leg to Europe. I get a couple-hour nap on each leg. I get 24-48 hours in a cool city. Then I fly one leg home. Couple-hour nap again on the way home. When I'm home there is nothing I could conceivably do for work, so I just get to enjoy my many days off. Don't get me wrong, the training was intense, but man, my job now is stupid easy. N546RV said, get a 4-year degree. Invest $50K or so to get your necessary pilot certificates ratings. Spend a few years making dogshit money as a flight instructor. Spend even more years at the bottom of the airline barrel, flying the routes no one else wants for peanuts. Keep doing this for a bunch of years until you're senior enough to fly the desirable aircraft and routes. Optional step 4 or 5A, get furloughed when a worldwide pandemic or other economic event shits all over the travel industry. Basically, the peachy side of airline flying is great, but you've got to pay your dues to get there. Some guy in San Jose said, don't forget the massive pension. Unions have the California politicians by the balls, and have no problem making their kids pay for their spending in order to get the union support. CHP officers who retired in 1999 or earlier after at least 30 years on the job collected pensions averaging $62,218, according to CalPERS data. For those who retired after 1999, the average pension was $96,270. The average retirement age for CHP officers is 54. Someone that age without a pension who wanted to buy an annuity to generate the same income for life would have to pay more than $2.6 million, according to Fidelity Investments. https://www.lattimes.com/la-me-pension-crisis-davis-deal/ Agent Kobayashi said, as a truck driver, it's much more than just the skill of driving. You have to have constant situational awareness, mental focus, and maneuvering skills to place your truck where it needs to be when making a delivery or arriving at a shipper. You also need to be able to properly maintain appropriate gears when climbing and ascending mountains or hills, make appropriate use of the engine brakes to avoid burning up your brakes, and doing a pre-trip on well over 100 different points on the truck and trailer. Truck driving also utilizes trip planning skills from using a GPS, road map, and knowing where you can and can't stop for a 30-minute break, 10 hours reset. It's a lot more work than it looks on the outside. The law of pizza said, "Believe it or not, jobs usually pay what they do for a reason." You might be able to point out a particular instance of somebody having very little work to do and still drawing a high salary, but there is a reason that the role itself pays that sort of salary, regardless of the workload of any individual within that role. Further, effort is not the only determining factor for salary. Digging ditches takes an incredible amount of physical effort, but makes far less than most white-collar jobs. Most of the high-salary jobs that you can point to as being low effort are going to have their own drawbacks or requirements that drive the salary up so high. Usually, this takes the form of rare knowledge, or ultimate responsibility for making calls and living or dying by how correct these calls are. So, you could find yourself in a low-effort job, making a high salary, but still sweating every day from the stress of wondering if you made a bad call and might lose it all.